Okay, time is currently 7:03. We would call a special call meeting to order for March 19th, 2020. Turn it over to Commissioner Evans to lead the celebration.
Well, thank you for today. We just ask that you help contain this virus and put an end to it so people can get back to their daily normal lives. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, second item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, we got a first and a second. Any discussion before we move to vote? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the fiscal year 2021 budget preview presentation by Town Administrator.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to hold this special meeting. I'm going to keep my presentation kind of high level, but I think I'm going to communicate very important things, and I'm going to communicate the highest kind of uses of public funds for the upcoming year, certainly highlight any changes in the budget since last year. So feel free to interrupt me, raise your hand, or just kind of speak out if you have any questions as we go along, and I hope to answer all of your questions. All right, so what I'm proposing, or what I will propose in the tax budget is neutral tax rate. So we're not increasing the tax rate. I don't know if you can see my cursor there, it's top left. The vehicle fee is also stable, and then solid waste fees are also stable. You'll recall from last year that we actually did reduce the tax rate. We increased our vehicle fee slightly, and then we also did increase our solid waste fee slightly. So we're trying to continue that trend and not change anything for this year, collecting more data and see how those revenues are working out for us. Community house rentals, I do propose that we increase the community house rental fee. This is based on a study that I did of surrounding areas and market rates for renting a space like this for an entire day. We're currently at $100, so I'm going to propose to increase that to $200 for the in-town rate. And for the out-of-town rate, I'm proposing an increase of $125 to $300.
Will we increase the deposit as well?
I'm not proposing that we increase the deposit because that's set to cover certain cleaning expenses in the event that the room is left dirty, and because those are directly linked to the cost that it would cost us to have someone come in and clean it afterwards, and feel that that's necessary.
Do you want us to interrupt you, or do you want us to wait till you're done and then have our questions?
No, I'm happy for interruptions at any time. I feel like you might have one at this point.
That's funny. You should say that. I do.
Yeah.
That's a large increase. Do you think it's going to decrease the number of rentals that we get, and in turn, we would not have as much profit?
I think that the overall revenue generated by this facility will increase. I think that we might have less number of rentals, but because we're doubling the fee, we can still get less rentals than we have now and still make more revenue. And in my opinion, because this is a historic property and we want to preserve it, it actually will utilize less of the useful life of this property over a period of time. And I also think that we're well below the market rate. So
Are
I think
people able to rent for half a day, or then rent for a full day?
no. So and that's something that we've thought about as well, offering a half-day rental. Obviously, there's some logistical complications there, and cleaning, etc. If you have an afternoon and someone in the morning, really just doesn't do a good job cleaning. I think my plan is to do this at first, and then we can continue to make changes as we move along, and especially as we accumulate revenue. I do think that we'll have significant increase in revenue. The revenue budget for the community house actually increased by 50%. Instead of 100%, which is what the rental fee is going up by. And I intend to put all that money back, or my recommendation would be that you approve putting that money back into the facility to continue to improve it. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
And then also just a reminder that nonprofits get half that cost. So, for those that are public benefit corporations, etc., they're not going to be paying $200, they'll be paying only $100 for in-town for an entire day.
I was going to say, and also understanding too, I've had friends, I've had co-workers that have rented this place out, and they were absolutely staggered and amazed at how cheap they were.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still inexpensive for food.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Got a question. What is the vehicle fee?
It's $20 a vehicle.
Okay. I've never ever paid a vehicle fee.
So you don't pay it to the town. The North Carolina Department of Revenue actually had DMV implement a tax and tax together system in the year 2017.
Don't arrest me over there.
So when you when you renew your registration, it's actually required for you to pay that fee at the same time.
All right, I just thought it was something I would.
Good question. Permits to dig in the streets, this is something that has been on the fee schedule for quite some time and is not often utilized, but we feel that it's necessary to increase it just because of the time it takes to process that. Some background behind that as well is Franklin County Utilities has historically done a lot of digging in our streets to fix utility lines, utility leaks, things of that nature, and they haven't ever filed a permit, we've never enforced it, and we're coming to an issue where they're doing such a substandard job when they're backfilling those cuts that they make for utilities that, it basically creates a depression in the street that, ruins the suspension on a vehicle. And so, in anticipation for requiring them to comply with this permitting process that we've never really enforced, I kind of did a brief analysis of how much work is it going to take to actually process each one of these permits and how many people are going to have to touch it. I think $100 is a fair fee charge. In addition to that, we'll also charge a bond, or we'll either take a deposit or we'll have the party that's digging in the streets issue a bond in the town's benefit. So that way, if, for instance, at the end of the construction project, the streets are not adequately repaired to their pre-digging condition, then that bond will actually be used to pay a contractor on the town will hire its own contractor to use those funds to restore the street to its previous condition.
That's good, because there's a couple spots.
I've received a lot of complaints. Yeah. So a special event permit, there currently is no fee. I think going up to a $50 fee is reasonable based upon the town staff effort that's required. That is also kind of industry standard. All other municipal governments in this region charge a similar fee, and I don't think that vendors will balk at that at all. I've talked to vendors, and I think it's a reasonable fee. So there's kind of on the revenue side of the house the major changes to the budget. Any questions about revenue? Tax revenue, just kind of on top of that, tax revenue last year for the ad valorem tax, we generated about $1.3 million. We anticipated about $1.65 million in revenue just based on the increased development. So that's a sizable increase, about 15 to 20%. All right, so on the expense side of the house, we have our paying classification study, which you approved the implementation of in this budget year starting July 1st. So we're going to continue implementing that. It's fully funded for the second year. So on the second year, as part of this program, what we're going to do is we're going to give each employee a developmental increase, which is indicated on that second bullet there with DI, plus a cost of living adjustment, which is your COLA. So the COLA is based on the Consumer Price Index, Department of Labor and Bureau of Labor Statistics publishes, on it every year, actually monthly, statistics on different sectors and also different geographic regions. So the cost of living increase as a percentage from December of 18 to December 2019 was 1.7% in the government sector in the Raleigh region. And so that's what we're going to be using as a cost of living adjustment. And then the developmental increase is, again, a concept that is designed to reward an employee who's at the apprentice level to get them up to the kind of journeyman level in their trade within a 7-year period. So along the 6 steps in those 7 years, with year 1 beginning at their initial employment, they're going to get basically from the minimum of their pay grade to the middle of their pay grade within 7 years. And then between the middle and max is only performance-based increase. So again, all the police officers, for example, were brought up to the minimum pay grades or the pay rates that were recommended in our paying classification study that we had our expert consultant publish and research for us. And the development increase was based on how much money it would take to get them from, let's say, $40,000 to $60,000, which is the middle of their pay grade, divided by 7. So each year they get that increase. That's their development increase. We also have a realigned police department structure. I'll remind you that when we hired Chief Whitley, we did fund an additional captain position. So we have a patrol captain, and we also have a support services and community policing captain. And then we have 2 sergeants and 2 squads of 4 police officers each under each sergeant. So we'll continue with that structure, and we're actually going to be advertising for the hiring of that additional sergeant. We have 1 on staff right now, and we hope to hire that person by the first week of July. There's a variety of different police equipment and training, so I'll kind of turn it over to Chief Whitley at this time so he can speak to those items.
Good evening. We identified fairly early on some gaps in training for our officers, and then some gaps in necessary training when we did the realignment of police structure for our command staff personnel. There's some additional supervisory training that I think is necessary for those gentlemen to successfully fulfill their roles. So if you're looking at the budget, we would have gone from $1,500 for training to $4,600 this year. That's going to assist us in what is essentially going to be some immersion training for our leadership and for our officers, and some opportunities that haven't been afforded, and then that will flatten out in subsequent years as they're getting supplemental training for what is essentially immersion this year, just to catch them up to what, in my opinion, is the training they should have had thus far. As far as equipment, we had a fairly significant increase there from basically $2,700 last year to $19,000 this year. Reason being, again, when we're talking about training and equipment gaps, there's just essential medical equipment that our officers have not had for life-saving purposes. One of those being AEDs for the officers available for emergency life-saving. And if you're just looking at those, we're looking at $3,000 just in AEDs. And then we're looking at supplemental PPE, personal protective equipment for the officers so they can have life-saving devices in the field, in emergency medical care for themselves or for our officers should we have a significant incident in the field. And another pretty significant purchase in there is we've been purchasing ammunition kind of by the box or by the case as the officers needed it. The purchasing of ammunition can be very volatile depending on what the market looks like, because most of those components come from overseas, and we've experienced some issues with trade from China in years past. I haven't run a firearms budget myself. Sometimes we've had gaps of 6 months where we couldn't get any duty equipment or duty ammunition for those officers, which means that 6 months that officers aren't getting training. So my proposal was we have an allocation of about a 3-year inventory for ammunition, so the officers, despite what the market looked like, would still have adequate ammunition for training and adequate ammunition to equip themselves for duty as well. And those are the two most significant areas for my budget.
Any questions for Chief Whitley? And before I take questions, actually, I do want to note that a significant investment in the training budget is that we're going to set aside about $10,000 or $15,000 for tuition assistance to allow officers to continue to attend training that is directly relevant to their job. For example, Chief Whitley is very close to getting a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I think he's got like 1 or 2 classes left, so the town would fully support him finishing that achievement. And then also for officers that are interested in professional education in the criminal justice field that's directly related to the performance of their job duties, the town supports that. Also, I do want to note that Administrative Specialist Aaron Moy and Chief have worked diligently to apply for a grant of $25,000 from the state for some of the emergency medical equipment and other items that he mentioned previously. So I just want to recognize that effort, and I think that's certainly a significant undertaking, writing the grant and getting it approved, things of that nature. So that'll certainly be money that the town uses as well. Any questions on the police end and from training or equipment? All right. We have one current half-time public works position that we're going to convert to a full-time position. And I'm going to give you a little bit more information later in this presentation about the future of that position. We are converting it from just a public works operator position to a fleet mechanic public works operator position. So this person is going to be expected to have basic automotive maintenance and troubleshooting diagnostic skills. Their preferred qualification is ASE certification, and that's with the intention of no longer having to pay to do basic maintenance on town fleet vehicles, like oil changes, tire rotations, things of that nature, basic automotive stuff, and to be able to do that in-house, which is safe. My projection is to actually pay for the position and more long-term. From the capital improvement side of the house, we've got the community house kitchen remodel. We're setting aside some money for that, about $15,000. I think that Commissioner Red especially would agree that the kitchen could use a little remodel. For Levy Park, we're thinking about getting some solar basketball court lights. So that way you can play basketball at night and or play pickleball at night and just use that facility long term. I think that'll be a great benefit to the community. We're going to do some pedestrian improvements and install stairs, for example, to Field 3, which is near the field house in the lower end. It's really steep area there, and there's not any stairs, so I think that would certainly benefit the users of that facility. And then we're also going to repair the gate as you enter close to the National Guard facility. We're going to repair it. We're really going to replace it. We're going to install an additional gate on the other end. And this kind of came out of some comments about our Christmas parade, where we tried to block that area off with some barricades, and there were some people that moved the barricades and ended up parking there anyway, which would have constrained our ability to use that for our Christmas parade. So I think that will help us use that facility long term, and it'll be a good improvement. We are going to complete the end of Town Hall that is currently kind of unimproved that the Public Works employees are working in right now. I think that'll be a significant benefit, and I'll speak a little bit more about that later. And then we're going to move forward with building a new Public Works facility as we've sold Old Town Hall, and we're going to be losing the use of that garage there effective in February of next year. So we anticipate having that project be completed no later than February. That way we can move in. Any questions on that overview? All right. So this is an overview of the site for our Public Works facility. All the properties that are highlighted in red on this map are actually town-owned properties. You can see this is Bloody Park, obviously. You got Town Hall here. We're going to be using this site down here, and this is College. We thought about using this site at first and extending Railroad Street, but that was a little bit challenging and a little bit cost prohibitive. So our intention is to essentially use this site that's shaded in blue right here. So this is a very concept sketch. You can see my chicken scratch here from my whiteboard in my office that I took a picture of, and I did a little bit of the sketching here. I'm going to stop this presentation now, and I think I've got it pulled up on a PDF, which is a little bit easier to reference. So the building structure we're looking at is depicted here. You can see essentially we've got pre-manufactured metal building or a building that's constructed. We're still kind of on the fence with that. I mean, you can save a lot of the engineering costs when you use pre-manufactured metal building, but there are also some challenges as well. So we're working with a consultant to make the right decision there. But we've got 40 feet by 140 feet is our footprint. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see we've got basically an exterior kind of storage space where we might be able to park a couple vehicles. It's not closed on that front end. And then we've got 3 maintenance bays. So we have roll-up doors on each of the maintenance bays. This space right here, these 3 bays, are not going to be air conditioned. We'll put a fan in there, a gym fan or something of that nature, but especially with the amount of work that's going to be done and the doors being open, we're not going to condition this space, just for your awareness. We will have a vehicle lift in each one of these spaces, that way the mechanic can get in there and do his basic maintenance tasks. And then on the right-hand side of the building, we're going to have an air-conditioned or climate-conditioned space with cubicle areas. That way, when we expand our Public Works team eventually and provide other Public Works type services, they'll have that workspace. We'll have a restroom and a shower here, so that way they can stay clean and do all those basic hygiene things. And then we'll also have an office back here for our Public Works supervisor, and then we'll have a break room with the sinks. That way they can have smaller meetings there and or enjoy a quiet space for their lunchtime. So that's kind of the footprint that we're thinking of for the building. I'm going to zoom out again here.
Do you feel like
Yes, please, Commissioner Ray.
having 3 lifts is necessary?
I think that it's smart to build it that way now, because we're not going to be able to change the building very easily moving forward. Depending on the total budget for the project, I've actually considered potentially only buying the lift equipment and other items just for one day at first, and then delaying that purchase until the future. But depending on the financing and the total cost of the project, I do think it makes sense, especially with the cost of borrowing being so low right now, to take advantage of that low cost of borrowing and just doing it now. But that's a very good question. Does that answer your question?
How much right now do we spend on vehicle maintenance?
So at rough glance, it's about $60,000 to $75,000 a year.
That includes the police department? Or
Yes, that's for all vehicles. Mm-hmm. And I think we could probably cut that down to 15 to 20,000, which would really be kind of the emergency type stuff, or more involved stuff, like replacing transmissions or alternators that our mechanic might not be able to do right away. Although I will highly encourage that person to continue to attend technical training to obtain those skills and purchase the equipment necessary to do that work when it makes sense. Mayor Flowers, I'm sorry.
Yes, and you may be getting to this. I know currently when we have inclement weather, we're purchasing salt and sand from a different township.
Right, from Wake
Are we
Forest.
going to have an area where we can store our home?
Yes.
Okay.
So moving into this aspect, so I'll move down just a little bit. So you can see this is College Street, kind of down here toward the center left of the screen, and then you've got your PW building, which is your 140 foot by 40 foot footprint right here. Just above that, you can see I've kind of chicken scratch outdoor storage, gravel. So this is essentially going to be an area where we can store, for example, road salt and other materials. This is 75 to 60 feet on this direction to about 180 feet. You can see this green line with the X's in it indicates a fence. So we'll have a fenced area, and then there will be a gate here. So this gate will be closed, so the area will be secure. And then when we bring vehicles in from maintenance, they'll enter in through this area, through the gate actually, and they'll enter in the building this way. So this side of the building will only have one exit, which will probably be over here, and it's actually depicted right here. So the door right there, you've got the little semicircle for your door. On the other side of the building, you've got 12 parking spaces, and this will be an asphalt surface. That's my preference. Depending on the cost, we may have to go to an improved gravel surface. It really just depends when we get further in the project and we have a more confident estimation of the probable cost. Then we'll have to make that decision, and then we'll have kind of an S-curve road that goes to College Street. So moving back to our diagram above, this is our draft site plan. So you can see that's College Street. You can see that you've got your road here, and then you can see there's this blue line that's kind of blue tealish color. That's an intermittent stream. There's no water in it right now, and it's not a wetland. But there is a buffer requirement. So you can see there's 2 lines here. There's a 50-foot buffer on either end of this stream, and then we need to, according to the environmental regulations, make the crossing as perpendicular as possible to the stream. So there you can see the road crossing over the stream. And we'll have a culvert or some kind of engineered crossing there. And then you can see we've got our stormwater control measure kind of in the center of this drawing. This is round kind of shaped feature. And then you can see your buildings there and your 12 parking spaces. By the way, just for your reference, this drawing is actually drawn to scale. So you can kind of see how the site will look afterwards. You've got your gravel yard behind. And then this dotted line indicates this is the air conditioned or climate control space versus the rest of the building, which is kind of either ventilated by fans or by open air.
And that's one right up to the current pump station area.
Yes, that's right. So the current pump station is actually just north of this. So this is your pump station right here.
Okay.
Yep.
So will we have any access getting to that from there? Because I know, and I don't know if they still do this or not, leaf collection and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and dispose of that area, would that still be the case?
So yes, we'll still have access to it. And we've actually thought about improving that surface.
Okay.
We've thought about doing, as part of this project, certainly it will be very inexpensive to just order, a little bit more material and to improve that surface. So that way it's easier to navigate. Commissioner Wiggins, did you have a question?
Yes, I don't think we completely answered the mayor's question on storage of salt, because that has to be inside, can't be in a gravel yard.
So I appreciate your comment. I think we'll probably store that in the area of the building that's got one open side, so it'll be covered. I think maybe I just used inaccurate language. We could probably put a shipping container or some kind of outdoor storage shed or something like that and put tires in it, maybe some automotive parts, things of that nature. I think that's what I was referring to as outdoor storage. But does that resolve your concern? Thank you for the question.
I've got one more question.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of going backwards. I'm sorry. So this third person in Public Works,
Yes.
is that solely just for car maintenance, or is that, or the other, because we won't always have.
So they will, I estimate based on some cursory conversations with Captain Muggsy, who's the fleet person, it's one of his collateral duties, that person will probably spend 15 to 20% of their time on maintenance, and 80 to 85% of their time will be on other stuff, public works, kind of solid waste program related topics.
That's what I was hoping it was.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions? All right, so we'll do that here. All right, so I just showed you that. That's our site plan. So now we're moving over to the new town hall completion. So you'll recall, as I'm sure you're well aware, this side of the building is relatively unimproved. We're using it for storage, and of course, Randy and the entire Public Works team is using it as a work area. We'll pull up a bigger version of that. So our intention is to move your meeting space into this building. So that large open area, our idea is to kind of build a custom meeting table for the board with audio, video equipment in this area. We're also going to put a door here in the wall and then have an additional conference room, and this would be used for training purposes. Of course, when you're not meeting in this space, I think this would be an excellent area to use for training. Certainly the police department will use it, and I think that we could also offer it to other governmental agencies that we might want to train with together. And then this smaller area can be used for smaller training environments or classes and or conferences, and then as well it can be used for a closed session. So that way you can retreat to that area if you want to have a closed session, let's say in the middle of your agenda, or otherwise you didn't want to have to make everybody leave the building right away. In the entrance area, we're just going to have kind of a lobby, and I've got like a wet bar here, but it's basically going to be a sink and potentially a refrigerator with a countertop that we can put snacks or other type of materials, maybe some printed materials that we want people, or other types of beverages for meetings. We also have an ADA accessible restroom with a changing table, and then we've got there will be a door here that will separate this lobby from this area, which will be a workspace that's kind of in the center of the screen. We've got one private office here, which may be used for potentially an HR director or an HR person. I know they obviously we're going to need a private space to have sensitive conversations with employees about employee needs or other type things. And then we've got some additional cubicles that could potentially be used for additional Parks and Rec personnel or finance personnel. As the town continues to grow, I think that this will be an excellent space to use for those employees. So that's what we're planning. We'd obviously at the same time need to improve the parking lot. We might need to raise it, which would actually, I don't think, cost very much, because we might be able to use a lot of the material that we're taking from the Public Works facility site. So we'll coordinate these projects together, and then our intention also is to pave that part of the parking lot as well. That's currently just improved by some gravel. Any questions about the improvements to the town hall?
The only concern that, and you kind of touched on it, because as the building currently sits, the back portion of the parking, one, it's not paved, but it's gravel, but it does slow down pretty significantly. With having several elderly people that do attend meetings, that was going to be my question: is how would they get in? Because the easiest way for them to get in where the handicap parking is in the front of the building,
right,
where town hall employees would enter. So I don't know if we had plans to do any kind of a ramp there, or if just a stairwell would be sufficient, or what the thought process was.
So I highlighted that as a concern of ours to our engineer, and I told him it probably makes most sense, I think, because this area is actually not that low to install a wheelchair ramp, that essentially you could enter right here and then continue to walk up. But at any rate, that'll be a paramount concern of ours to ensure that this is accessible to anyone that has special needs.
But if you raise the grade, it would be neat.
That's correct. So certainly, just depending on how much we need to raise the grade, what the cost is at the end of the day, we'll consider all those options, and we'll certainly use what we think will satisfy our needs, and then also keep costs to a manageable point. Any other questions?
Yeah, so this is existing area within the building that we're going to remodel?
That's correct. So the entire building actually, have you ever been inside the building, Mr. Bright? Whenever you want to, I'm happy to kind of show you the space, but this was a manufacturing facility before we moved into it, and we finished this side of the building, which essentially meant putting up drywall and putting in the acoustic tile ceiling that we have. So we're essentially going to do those things. Those are the only kind of interior things that are required, in addition to putting up these additional walls that are depicted in red. And then we'll, flooring, maybe a couple of additional windows, potentially on this side of the window to allow in some natural light. Does that help answer your question?
Any additional heating there?
That is something that I've identified with the architect as well, that we want to make sure that the cubic footprint that's going to be on this side, if we need to install an additional air handler, then we'll do that and build that into the budget.
I'm sure it has connections on there, but how does that size room compare to this room?
That's a good question. I think it's about the same size, to be quite honest. I think it might be a little bigger, actually.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Enough room.
Yeah, and I'm happy to send this to you. This document will be in the minutes that the clerk publishes, and this drawing is to scale, and it's got the dimensions on it. It's really hard to see on the screen, obviously, because you're sitting 30 feet away from it, but it'll help you kind of get a concept. But I would say it's basically the same size, if not a little bit bigger in this space.
So besides that outside door, how would you get to that section?
For this section,
All of it, like that whole side? I know where you go through the
Sure, so,
part
yeah.
right now.
there's a door right here, so there's some
Right.
cement steps right here.
Right, that's
So-
from the inside of the building.
For the inside of the building, you'll actually enter through right here. There's a current, so
That's
basically.
the current door that's right there, right?
Right, that's right. So,
But so to get there, if you're not going in from the outside, you go through the police department, correct?
employees would probably end up going outside just because of security reasons in the police department, because there's evidence in there, and there might be, other reasons to not have employees go through there. This is something that I've actually thought to talk about with Chief Whitley and thought to talk about with the engineer. If there's another solution that we can come up with, but it's a concern that's noted.
Does the door from the outside have any kind of awning or anything over it? That would be something you want to.
It does not currently, but our plan is to install it. Good comment. Do I have any other questions or comments?
Just another comment.
Sure.
So, back when we started the whole process about getting into a new town hall, we visited several areas, and I love the idea of having our own meeting space internally in our own, governmental facility. So I love the idea of that because it accomplishes several things: trainings and exhaust. So you don't have to repeat anything in our meetings, or you have to pause and let the train go through and allow the officers to go through. So kudos for getting on that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate your support. Any other questions or comments?
Is there gonna be another emergency exit required?
Yes, sir. The engineer has commented that we would at least leave one additional exit. That'll be a consideration that they take into account when they're finalizing the plans. You comment. Any other questions or comments? All right. So these.
What is, I do have one more.
Yes, please.
Do we know what capacity would be for that? Not that we have record-breaking attendance at our meetings to begin with.
Sure.
But let's say for whatever reason, someone got upset about, let's pull something out of the air traffic.
Right.
And 75 or 100 people want to show up, but we only have capacity for 50. I was just.
I estimate the capacity of that space to be about 120 occupants.
Wow, okay.
And who's the architect?
I'm glad you asked that question because there's a couple other items on the agenda that we need to take care of. The architect that we're using for the site plan is called the Site Group. That's the name of the firm. Very impressed with their work so far. And just so to give you an overview of how we're managing the professional services for this project, we've retained the Site Group, or our proposal is to retain the Site Group for the site design, which includes the layout. It's going to include all the environmental. So, we obviously study the environment. We do soil samples, we do core samples, and we do all these things to make sure that the foundation that we build is adequate. Stormwater obviously needs to be managed. There needs to be a plan for that, etc. So they're going to do the site design. Their proposal for that is about $35,000, or maybe I think it was $31,000. Either way, it's in your agenda, the actual proposal, but it was between $30,000 and $35,000. The actual architectural design and construction administration of the project is, I propose that we heavily consider using Integrated Design, which is a firm out of Raleigh. They're very good and very impressed with them. Just so you're aware, there is a state law that models a federal law called the Brooks Act, and the state law is called the Mini Brooks Act, that regulates how local governments or any government agency can procure architectural and engineering services. The limit for exemption from that law is $50,000. So in one of the later in the agenda, I'm asking for your approval to have the authority to delegate this as exempt from the Mini Brooks Act for the site work that the site group is doing, because that's under the $50,000 threshold. The construction administration and design, so that includes all the drawings for the buildings, meetings between the engineer and the builder, while the project's ongoing, and then also the bidding process that we're going to manage that for us. So all that's included in that contract. That is estimated to be about $130,000 worth of work. And that, again, the detailed breakdown of that is in your agenda packet. And that obviously is above our $50,000 threshold. So right now I'm working with Randy and Carrie to issue a request for qualifications, which is the public solicitation process for architectural and engineering services. We anticipate releasing that within the next couple weeks. And at that point, we will give a pre-bid conference, allow anybody that's interested to ask us questions, probably give them the field or those that are interested in another couple weeks to develop a proposal, and then we'll open all those proposals and choose the most qualified firm to actually conduct the work. Whether that's Integrated Design or not, we'll certainly choose the most qualified firm. Any questions on any of that?
So grand total, what?
As far as professional services, architectural design, engineering, construction administration, etc., we're looking at about $170,000. And the total project cost, I'm estimating it right now right around $1 million.
No tax increase, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And of course, part of the funds that we earned from the sale of Old Town Hall will be used for that as well. Any other questions or comments? All right, so let me make this a little bigger for you. So this is our unfunded expenses. So in our capital improvement plan, we do have a leaf truck. We kind of discussed that last year, where this is a commercial vehicle. We do have one individual on staff now that has a commercial driver's license, so we can't operate it. But I think that we need to do a little bit more work before we need to purchase this. So this is kind of unfunded for reasons other than just monetary. Street sweeper, this is something that we identified as a potential need in the capital improvement plan. I don't think we need it right now, or at least prioritizing other items. Recreation center is also in the capital improvement plan. I know Andrew Smith would like to build the Fonzie Flowers recreation center sometime in the near future, but we're prioritizing the town hall improvements and other things at this time. The police department did request 2 Ford Explorers and 1 truck for an investigator and also special events. So we did not fund those items. We did purchase a lot of new vehicles recently, so we're going to continue to operate with those, and I think Chief's satisfied with their performance. But you may see some of these things next year. And then also, just to make you aware, our school resource officer is going to be unfunded. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office has committed to filling that position, so the position will not be unfilled. It's just it will be a Franklin County Sheriff's deputy that will be in that role at Youngsville Elementary School, and it will not be a Youngsville police officer.
And that's what it was before.
That's correct. That's correct. And this is really just a result of the position being less than half funded through the grant monies that the state is providing.
They were doing more than that before, right?
That's correct. They have cut back on that funding. That's right. And this is a mandate of the sheriff. So it's just something that we did because we thought it might yield better service and be nice to have, but I don't think it makes financial sense at this point.
I also would just like to say that I'm thankful that you had a CIP. When I started as a commissioner, it was maybe some things written down on a piece of paper like this. So it's really exciting to see a CIP and planning and
right.
stuff. It's great.
I agree with you. Thank you for the comment.
And I will concur as well. So the street sweeper, I think, would be a great idea and a great a great piece of equipment to have once Main Street is taken care of.
Right.
And we know we're still.
Yeah, I can see buying that apparatus in July of next year, because we'll probably finish construction in December of this year.
The rec center, yeah, we definitely need to try to focus on that.
There are other improvements we thought about, like Andrew actually mentioned that we could potentially pave the parking lot, the lower kids play area, and maybe put like 3 more basketball courts there. That's I think an option that you might see in the future in coordination with the street resurfacing project, because you want to buy asphalt in bulk, buy as much of it as you need. But we'll continue to. I thought of maybe every other year updating this capital improvement plan. I don't think it's something that we need to do every year, but I think every other year warrants attention, and that would be something that we would talk about, and especially just for that purpose.
Well, Aubrey from Faith definitely touched on the other night. The basketball program has grown exponentially.
Right.
And, to no fault of our own, Youngsville Elementary School, that gymnasium is old and it's worn out. So it doesn't necessarily have to have my name on it, but at some point we definitely need to have. I would love to see, for real, I would love to see a nice gymnasium, soccer fields, baseball fields, the whole 9 yards. And I know there's been some work.
There's a lot of other
on
things.
that stuff.
Yes, sir.
Right.
One of my children today recommended that we make a skate park. Just wanted to tell you that.
All right.
It's a pretty big
Is
deal.
that the same
It's a
one
pretty
that
big
just-
conversation in my kitchen today.
Isn't that the same one that just got road rash in our neighborhood
It
yesterday?
was that.
And he needs a skate park? I'm sorry.
Do I have any other questions or comments on this slide? Or anything else? This is the last slide.
So where does the Main Street improvements fit into this? That was last year's budget?
So that's a good question. So the Main Street project is a capital improvement fund. It's its own fund, and those things basically have a budget that's approved at inception and lasts for the life of the project. So you actually don't need to have that be part of this budget ordinance, but it still exists. And the project right now is a total budget of about $1.4 million, of which the town is only chipping in about 12%. The rest of it is being paid for by either the state government and or the Federal Highway Administration. Good question.
What is our Powellville funding looking like?
We could always use more. The current revenue is about, the budget I'm having for next year is $45,000. So, that is being used partially to satisfy debt service for the project that we had last year. We resurfaced several streets. And I think that as we continue to have more homes come online and have additional tax revenue, that we would probably issue more debt potentially to do another major project of $200,000 to $400,000 worth of street repaving. But certainly, I think the Main Street project will make a huge difference in neighborhoods downtown. But I also think there's some other work that we're going to have to do. Does that answer your question?
Are we using Powellville money to fix those indentations in the road from where they cut?
We are. So one of the things that I'm still looking through is the potential to get Franklin County to chip in for some of the damage that they've done. That is a very delicate scenario, and I'm going to have ongoing conversations with the county utilities director and the county manager about that. So before we, it's something that we want to do because it's something that we don't have the in-house expertise to do, because we have to do it to DOT standard, that we're going to hire someone to do. We kind of want to do it all at once and bid it out. It's just something that we need to have some discussions about. But we have fixed one, and there are, I think, about 4 or 5 others that I've identified on the plan to resurface. Does that answer your question?
We've got one on Main Street that I know has been doing it 3 times.
Yes, sir. And I think they did that, and they were just like, oh, well, they're going to have their downtown improvement project sometime soon, so we don't have to worry about that. But
There's also a huge hole in that sidewalk that needs to be fixed. It's near the railroad,
right,
and somebody's gonna fall in there and break their leg.
that's identified
When you're out there walking.
to be fixed in hopefully October. We will bid the downtown improvement project in June.
Is there any, to Commissioner Evans' point, is there any way of just putting any kind of patchwork on that until we...
On the whole?
Yeah.
I can certainly look into it.
Someone's gonna
Can
get
we have a
hurt.
cone in it? I don't know.
It does.
Yeah.
One is specifically where, I don't know if y'all remember the huge sinkhole
Right.
on Main Street. Well, all that flooding just kind of washed down through it, and it created a sinkhole in the sidewalk as well. So even if we just, I know it looks kind of cheesy, but even if we fill it with gravel.
I don't know if everybody remembers this, but where that safety issue is at, about 12 years ago, that was all dug up and put back down. Yes, right in that same spot.
How come? Remember?
I
don't remember that.
I want to say it's when they were doing the brick project, when they were putting the bricks downtown. They tried to put it through there, and it sunk away. Am I right, Emily?
That was their first test area.
That was it, yep.
Yep.
So I remember waiting them out there for several days. I don't know, it was a good rodeo.
I'm sure Randy can take a look at it and see if you can figure something out, but otherwise, it'll certainly be fixed in October. And at least improve the awareness and warning to ensure that people are aware of the hazard. Any other comments or questions?
So this is the last slide here.
Yes, sir.
So I will be remiss if I didn't try to play a little bit of devil's advocate. So if we reduce the tax rate even by 1 cent, what would we be losing? Have you done calculations on that?
If you reduce the tax rate by 1 cent, just off the top of my head, you lose about $60,000 worth of revenue.
How about half percent?
30,000.
Something.
Well, no, just out of curiosity, because obviously, if all of these things are funded and they sound great, we know we talked about it for a couple of years now, the need for, the maintenance center.
Right.
They need to have their own space, because the vehicles and things like that, they do take up space with parking and things of that nature. And they just need more room, period, for their equipment. So, I don't want to take any of that stuff away. I was just curious from a monetary standpoint, if we started taking away from this, what would potentially be at risk to be lost?
Let's see. We probably, if you're asking me, my recommendations, I would say we probably cut the community house kitchen remodel. We probably cut back on the Lily Park improvements. I really think we need to make those improvements to town hall, and we need to do public works facility because Randy's not going to have a place to have this, year stored starting in February. We could maybe curtail. I probably cut the tuition assistance that we set money aside for. That is nice to have, but it's not necessary. If you did all that, you probably come up with about $60,000 to $75,000. I'm guessing just off the top of my head.
And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I didn't know if you did any of those calculations. Just what we're gaining, what we're losing.
Right. I thought about how much revenue we gained by cutting the tax rate because I anticipated that question. At this point in time, especially with the growth environment, I think that we need to grow a little bit more before we can begin to cut the tax rate. Because as the tax base broadens, that's exactly what the state's done with its sales tax and its income tax. It's broadened its sales tax base to generate more revenue, whereas certain services that were not subject to sales tax before are now subject to sales tax, and they've also reduced the income tax rate at the same time. So I do see us being able to grow our tax base by new homes coming online, being able to produce it. I just don't think now is the right time.
That's right.
That's a very good question.
Just we wouldn't be doing due diligence if we weren't asking those questions.
Absolutely.
So yeah, obviously, and I think for the average citizen who doesn't know, as we grow and we're offering services, we have to hire more police, more streets and maintenance and things like that. So there's give and take there, but like I said, I wanted to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good presentation. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, first, I wanted to give an opportunity to each department head that hasn't spoken to share any thoughts that they wanted to. First, I wanted to introduce Ms. Carrie Patton-Motlow, who's our new interim finance officer, so welcome. You can wave at everybody here. She's excited to be here, or at least I hope she is. She probably wouldn't say that she wasn't in such a public setting, but do you have anything you'd like to share? Okay. Aaron from planning?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And clerk?
I'm good.
All right. Mr. Parks and Recreation Director?
All good.
All right. Thank you, sir. Oh, I didn't see Randy sitting back there. He's right behind you. Mr. Public Works Supervisor. Is there anything you'd like to share?
We're good. You are
that grass down. So thank you.
We were, talking about the garbage truck and all that stuff. Is that gonna happen in the next budget year? Like, not
So
budget?
I'm still thinking about that. What Randy and I are working very closely together on is trying to find the right apparatus. So we want to find the right size of rear loader garbage truck, one that can kind of get around some of the smaller streets that we have in a larger truck, and at the right price. I don't think we need to buy a new one, so we're looking for a used one. A used trash truck that's of a certain size is a little difficult to find, but we do know where to look, and so it's really kind of just finding when the cities of Raleigh or towns of Cary, things of that nature. We've actually requested their capital improvement plan, so we know when they're going to be buying new equipment, when they're going to need to get rid of their old equipment, and so we're going to do that at the right time. We hope that maybe we might be able to do it by the end of this calendar year. It might be something that we can fit in. It might be something that that we can't. But either way, it's something that we want to do as soon as possible, but under the right circumstances to bring that solid waste service in house, because I think we can provide a much better service.
So if you randomly find the right truck in like 2 months from now, and you wake up and you're like, oh, there's the right truck, it's ready today. Do you have the money to do?
I'm confident that I can find the money to do it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That sounds great.
Yeah, we have a contingency budget built into a certain degree, so it's just one of the things that's kind of on my radar that we might be able to, I think we can fit it in. And of course, given the right circumstances, the board can use some of its savings, the fund balance that we have accumulated. Our fund balance is sitting, at over $1 million right now. So, buying a used trash truck probably costs us about $25,000, $30,000. That may, especially because it's such a fleeting opportunity when you do find a used piece of equipment that is serviceable, then I think it would be a good use of fund balance to buy at that time, even if we needed to use that.
It's only $30,000 for a used dump truck.
I think.
I might use it.
Yeah, they're about $150,000 new. You can get a used one for about $30,000 to $40,000.
This, Works facility
Yes, sir.
is right beside the apartment complex that we just approved,
It's on the other side of the street,
the other side.
and the entrances won't align. Yes, sir.
Same side of the street.
Or I'm sorry. Here, let's please, Aaron, go ahead.
So they're on the same side of the street, but if you look at the site plan, the apartments are south, like those two south parcels you see on there.
All right.
There would be that 100-foot buffer would be between.
Got it. Thank you for correcting me. Sorry about that.
What I was thinking about was they had a comment that they would have a rear access that could go to a greenway coming down that stream. So
Right.
that's why I was thinking about that.
Got it. Thank you very much. Yeah, and certainly as we continue to develop these site plans, we'll communicate with the developer of that site to see if there's any way that we can make mutually beneficial decisions with regard to the site plans.
Did you have any plans for the yellow stripes?
I think that we could potentially have another town property there, maybe a recreation center or a park or something of that nature. Again, the only challenge there is that we're going to have to continue this street. So that is very complicated in that we have to get the railroad permission because it might be in the right of way. Obviously paving the streets it can be very, very expensive. But I do see, several different things that we could potentially do on this site. And then I also think that this road could continue onto that other side of the property as well, eventually. Does that answer your question? Any other questions or comments? Thank you. I yield, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So we're done with number 3. We'll move along into item number 4, which, as Mr. Cordero spoke about earlier, the ordinance authorizing the town administrator to exempt specific projects from the requirements set forth in NCGS 143-64.31.
Which is the Mini Brooks Act that governs how governments can procure architectural engineering services.
And that's Mini Brooks B.R.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. The requested action here is to approve the ordinance. So I will open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a first and a second. Any discussion before we move to vote? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 5 is to direct town administrator to execute a contract with the site group for engineering services related to the construction of a new public works facility. The requested action here is to direct the town administrator to execute contract. Do I hear a motion in kind?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have the first and second there. Any discussion before we move to vote? Hearing none, all in favor? And any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is to direct town administrator to execute a contract with Integrated Design for engineering services related to the construction of a new public works facility.
And I would like to caveat this agenda topic with that we need to go through the request for qualifications process first. This is just in preparation for Integrated Design being the most qualified firm as a result of that process, and that will require no further action. However, if we do find that another firm is the more qualified firm, then you'll see another agenda item at a future meeting to execute a contract with that firm.
And that would be in a regular public meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Requested action here is to direct the town administrator to execute contract.
Make a motion to execute contract.
Second.
All right. We got a first and a second there. Any discussion before we move to vote? Hearing none, all in favor? And any opposed? None. All right, that motion carries. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about? All right, this meeting is adjourned.